Hello everybody, and thanks for tuning in to our very first From the Green Room. I'm Brian Zellmer, Director of KU Presents here at Kutztown University, and I'm coming from our actual green room, which is located in Schaefer Auditorium. Our first guest, and before I introduce her, I just want to mention that we're going to be speaking with various guests every week, every Wednesday at 4 o'clock, and we invite you to tune in. These are meant to be interactive, so if you have questions or comments for any of the guests, please feel free to type them into the comments, and we'll try to get to them during the program. It's going to be a pretty short program, only about 15 to 20 minutes, and we're going to meet different artists every week, not just artists, actually different professionals from the performing arts world every week. And this week, we're speaking with comedian Dena Blizzard. Why don't we bring Dena in now, because we have a very short time, and most of you already know Dena. Hi, Dena.
Hello.
Viral video sensationist. And you have all kinds of programs on Facebook. I know back in the day, I helped you with one episode of Chardonnay Go from Colorado.
That's right. Oh, that was so fun. We went live and we were painting. That's where we did that painting of my mom with the donut.
Yes. Now, does she actually still have that hung up somewhere?
She does, Brian. She tried to donate it to Goodwill, and I was so mad. I was like, we made that special for you, so I got to get it back and hang it somewhere in my house.
That was so much fun. I enjoyed being your chauffeur that weekend.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, and I forgot your assistant's name, but I still can't forget the fact that she liked Rocky Mountain oysters so much.
Oh yeah, Carolyn. Carolyn was with me for that trip.
Yes. Anyway,
so good.
Just to give a background for people that don't know, you were a Miss New Jersey and you're a comedian. What started first, the whole Miss New Jersey thing, or was it the comedy? Because you did comedy as your talent, right?
Oh my God, you're adorable. No, I wish I did.
Oh, I thought you did.
I played boring classical piano, but if people ask me how did I know I was funny, I figured it out from Miss America. You know, like I was 22, and so at 22 there are not a lot of opportunities for young women to kind of get on a stage and whatever. And so I was just always telling stories, and I think I was my most inappropriate at Miss America. And I was like, listen, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to win this, but I'm going to have an incredible amount of stories to tell. And so it took probably, from 22, it took 8 more years for me to get the guts up to go on stage. And the very first story I ever told was like a funny story from Miss America. So, so they kind of happened around the same time. Like, I don't know if I wasn't, going around and talking, I don't know that I would have figured out that I was funny, but slowly through the Miss America is how I figured out I was.
So we met, I don't know, 2007, 2008, because you came and brought your show, your one-woman show, One Funny Mother.
You were one of the first people to book our show. We were so excited.
We were excited to have you. It was such a great show. It still is. And but how did you get about? I don't even think I ever asked you. How did you write that? How did you take time? You were a mother. You had young children at the time.
Yeah. So it started out. I'm a comic, so I started to figure out that all of my jokes were about motherhood or being married. And a long time ago, I had gotten booked to do a gig somewhere up in the Northeast, Rhode Island, something, I don't know. And on the way there, I get a phone call. I call them because I'm running late. And I'm like, I just want to let you know I'm running late. I hate being late. I'm so sorry. They're like, Dena, don't worry about it, because dinner's running late. And we're going to have dinner. Then we have the hour and a half set aside for you. And then we'll be good. And I was like, yeah, okay, great. And I hung up the phone. And I said to my girlfriend, I was like, oh my, they think I have an hour and a half. She's like, well, what do you have? I was like, I have 40 minutes. Well, like, what? There clearly was a miscommunication. And she's like, well, then just do another 40. I go, it took me 8 years to write this 40. Like, I don't have another 40 in my butt that I can just pull out. So I was so nervous. We get there. They were still having dinner. So we went to the bar and we're chatting. And she was like, Dena, just tell that story about when Jim bought that gift card for Dunkin' Donuts for that 5-year-old, and tell the story about this or that. And so I started writing them all on a napkin. She's like, that's a funny one, right? And she was drunk, but I was like, no, that is a good one. I just kept writing them down. And so I went to do the show, and I had my napkin, and I think I did 2 hours off of the napkin. Like, I went well beyond the hour and a half.
Wow.
And I just remember thinking, like, if I could do this off of a napkin, like, what would it look like if I actually tried? And so shortly after that, I had this idea, like, why not try to put together a show? So I went to a local theater and I was like, I have this show. And they were like, sure, whatever. We split the door, so they didn't care what I did. And I had no script. I just had like notes, like booby, daddy's a dum dum, like I have a mustache. And I was like, and then when I yell this curse word, you put the lights out. He was like, okay. Like the guys on the tech crew were so confused. And so by the time we get to you, you really were one of the first people that booked us. And Brian, like, he looks real jolly right here, but when he's at work, he's very serious. And so we were like, all right, let's try to let Brian know that we're making most of the show up. We're like, got it. And so, we were lucky enough to find great presenters who believed in our concept. And
I remember you called me from the road. You were like, oh, we're 15 minutes away, and you show up in a minivan, and it was packed with people. Your mom that was there. I remember I met your mom.
Angie.
And yeah. And they all come out of the van, and then you start carrying dirty laundry in laundry baskets, and I'm like, we don't have a laundry machine here. We don't have washing machines and dryers. And you're like, no, this is for the stage, and then you start throwing the laundry on the stage.
Yeah.
It was such a fun experience.
It was very. Oh, Alexis, she said she's Kutztown alum. I love it.
So in your shows and in your comedy and on your programs, you have Tipsy Tuesday, and I don't know if it's every morning you do Uppy,
our morning show.
You bring people into your life, and you talked about your family a little bit. How do they feel about you share such personal things, and doesn't seem like there's anything off the table?
No, there's really, well, you saw there was just a Girl Scout cookie fight, just with full on just hitting each other. I think it was gradual, when they were younger, I would talk about them, but they were so young. They did. I mean, I literally, I think Dean was 2, Jacqueline I had just had, and I hadn't had Brooke yet. So it's been a long road. And I, for the most part, every once in a while when I was doing stand-up, they might say and be like, please don't do that joke, so I do it behind their back. And then,
as a presenter, that's one thing I've learned. You never tell them not to do something, a comedian to not do something, because that's a guarantee it's going to be in the show.
Coming in, it's going to come wrapping around. And then with the pandemic, I think that, we had always had Tipsy Tuesday. So we've been drinking on the internet every Tuesday for 4 years. But then the pandemic hit. And so it was kind of a slippery slope, we're like, now we're going to be live every day and whatever happens. But I think that, the nice thing is that it all comes from a place of comedy, whether it's the stage show or it's here. I can't think of too many instances where we've gone live and we shut it off and people are like, why did you say that? Although this is so funny, Brian, we did a Christmas concert. So all my kids are musical in some fashion. So everybody's playing something and literally like, it's 10 seconds. My son's like, 10 seconds. And we're all screaming at each other. We're like, that song is out. Get it out. And screaming. And then it came and it was like, hello and welcome to the Christmas concert. It's so funny. So life definitely imitates art in everything that we do now. So.
And I don't want to ruin the end of the One Funny Mother.
Go ahead.
Do you still use the I'm not crazy part of it? It used to be One Funny Mother.
No, we don't use the I'm not crazy part of it. We kind of dropped it along the way, but I mean, I feel like that's what you have to just I'm not crazy. This is not normal. That's kind of an ongoing theme. Well,
the realness of the comedy, though, I think is what we all relate to. Is, I mean, it was recently you had a video where you're complaining because one of your children, I think it was Dean, didn't wash the dishes. And now most because he did his part.
He did his part, the eating part, and washing his dish. Exactly. And sometimes the material writes itself, right?
And we've all been there as a parent. If you're a parent, you could definitely relate to that. But anyway, so then you also, I don't know when the videos came about, these separate videos, not the live shows that you do. But I remember when Chardonnay Go hit and it became super viral and you got all kinds of media attention and stuff. For those of you who don't know, I don't know if you want to describe, you'll do a better job than me, but when Pokemon Go came out and that was really popular, this was a spoof. It was a thing for parents to find Chardonnay. And I just rewatched it. It's been a while since I've seen it, and I was laughing so hard. Still,
classic.
It is a classic.
Right.
Now, I don't know if it was that video or what, but that led to a couple things. It led to you starting a board game with the same name, Chardonnay Go. And I'm still embarrassed and I've never laughed so hard in my life.
That's right. You were also a part of our inaugural gameplay. So
Testing the game at
we go
APAP.
to a conference every year where people like myself go to sell shows and people like Brian go to buy shows. And there's a group of us that have become friendly. And so I literally had just completed the game, and I had a full game, and I was like, all right, we're going to play it. But it had never really been played outside of my family. And so Brian and Clay, who's coming on, and Pat, and just some fabulous performers and friends. And we were literally in the middle of a Sheraton hotel in New York City. And Brian is part of a team of boys rowing a boat through the lobby. It was the funniest thing. So funny.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
remember life. So
oh
good.
God, I miss it. I know.
So
Hopefully we
good.
get back soon. So from that though, somehow a group of people in Chardonnay France find out about you.
Yeah. The town of Chardonnay decided they were going to have a big celebration, and they were like, well, who else to ring in this fabulous holiday than the drunk lady from Jersey? And so they flew me and my whole family to Chardonnay France. And it literally was, I mean, it just looked so French. And it was almost like fake French. I was like, this is a prop. This house is a prop. Those goats are props. This wine. I mean, it was just, you do so much in those moments to just kind of take mental pictures. You're like, I don't want to forget this. Like, I just kept saying it was like our once in a lifetime. Like, I don't know
how something like that sinks in, because it's so unreal. Like you have a day that they're honoring you in Chardonnay France.
Crazy. And the funny thing, it was the weirdest booking ever, because the guy who was lovely, who was helping put it together, he sent me a message on Facebook. I get a lot of crazy messages on Facebook. So it was in French, so I had to Google translate it. And it was like, you come to stay in my hotel, you come to stay in Chardonnay. And I was like, no, thank you. And so we would Google, it was like, it's beautiful, you stay here. And I was like, no, thank you. I didn't call him creepy, but I meant it. And then after, he just kept emailing. And after a while, I was like, I think he's trying to book us, but like in the creepiest way possible. Like, it just, if you couldn't be creepier, it was just so funny. And then eventually we got people that all spoke the same language on the phone, and it turned out to be the most amazing thing. So yeah, it's very interesting, the turns that my career has taken and where it's brought us. For sure.
And you've got such a huge following now, and I know the Target Mom thing is what really brought in tons of people. All the teachers, it seems like every teacher around the world loves you. And I have a lot of teachers in my family, actually, and I've been for years saying, oh, you got to tune into Dena, she's so funny. And trying, and they're like, yeah, whatever. And then all of a sudden I'm at a pool party and they're looking at your video, the Target Mom ran, they're like, oh, we love her. And I'm like, I know, I've been telling you about her.
That's the one I was telling you about. That's so funny.
So.
That is. It is kind of funny when things kind of come back to you, that you kind of put them out, and like friends of mine will get the video. They're like, I just saw a video of you. Is that the one you were talking about? I'm like, yeah. Most of my actual friends don't pay any attention to what I'm doing. It's like, if somebody just saw you just drinking in a Target, I was like, yeah, that was Tuesday. So
we only have a couple minutes left, but I just because we do have some students that brought in some questions from the commercial music department, and they want to know a couple things like, how do you promote yourself? Do you have a team of people? And also, one of the questions I want to make sure I ask is, because we sort of alluded to how you share so much of your family, how do you protect you and your family from, there's a lot of creepy people out there, and you're so open, and is there, how do you go about doing those?
So those are a lot of questions. So let's talk about the marketing one. So I think we are very into guerrilla marketing. So like when the world was normal, we got magnets that said "One Funny Mother," and I decided to just cover my car with them. I usually had 200 magnets on my car at all times. And like what we lacked in funds and money and a marketing budget, I was like, we're going to make up with some ridiculous ideas. And so we did that. When we were off Broadway, we would go on the streets of New York and we would bark and we would send out all of our stuff. And I was like, all right, I got to go. Show starts in about 30 minutes. I'll see you. And they're like, are you in it? I'm like, I am the show. I'll see you inside. Buy a ticket. And so we are not, guerrilla marketing was never beneath us. But the videos really started to help you realize that if you could figure out how to take this talent that you have that's on a stage, and parlay it into something that could reach more people in a medium. Like, it just kind of happened that we were making videos at a time when Facebook was really starting to emerge, and so we had a tremendous amount of time to practice. There's a lot of people that ask me about Facebook marketing, and I'm like, you should try everything. Like, just make a ton of different videos and put them all out. And their answer is always, yeah, but if they're not good, I don't want people to see them if they're not good. I'm like, well, let me put it to you this way. You have 2 likes on your video. Nobody's watching you. So don't worry about looking like a fool, because nobody cares. So
I think that is a different skin that comedians have, though, because you have those early days where you're bombing and you have something in you that brings you back up on the stage to keep trying, where a lot of us, we're like, oh, if we had that experience, we would totally run and hide and never do that again.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's 2 things about comedy. When we were selling our show in our booth, if you talk to me long enough, and you'll kind of get the essence of the show in some way. So I think comedy lends itself to that. But I also think that if you looked at the videos that have done the best, so you mentioned Chardonnay Go, which happened during Pokemon, the Back to School rant, which is the Target one, happened during back to school time. You start to realize that the videos that do the best, because they're never the ones that we think. When we shot the Target video, we weren't even going to post it. I was like, this isn't even that good. And then the ones were like, this is amazing. I'm going to be a superstar. Nobody watches it. But they're the ones that are timely, and then they're ones that have a certain amount of truth to them. They definitely, like, who knew that message about, not complaining about school supplies needed to be said so much from a different perspective, So I think that it's important to be posting regularly and to be honest, be vulnerable. But again, those are things that are very much taught in a comedy vein, just kind of putting your truth into the universe. So that's always been kind of the philosophy, is to just try everything, and you'll figure out what works. People say, should I do Facebook or Instagram or Twitter? I'm like, do all of them, and you'll figure out where your people are.
I just want to tag on something you said, because as someone who's not on the stage, I'm backstage as the administrator. You mentioned how I came across as very serious when you first met me, and I was being the person I thought I was supposed to be at that job, and I was just kind of running an uphill battle every day. And then when I left there and went to a new place, I said, you know what, I'm just going to be myself. And it was such a nurturing place that allowed me to be myself. And even though I don't know if I'd even want to be friends with myself because I'm so boring, but for some reason, everything I started doing when I just was authentic about it and approached it just as myself, it became some kind of success. And I think that could be translated not just for people on stage like you, but for anybody. If they just, you're told so many times, just be yourself, and it's hard sometimes because you have this notion, oh, I'm supposed to be like this in this role, but really you should be yourself in everything.
Yeah, and I think, like, my son started doing stand-up. I think that's what for the longest time when you start comedy, you act like a comedian. You say things a certain way. Yeah, right? You're just very shaka. But eventually, and then I got into warm-up, and you're up there for 8 hours. There's no way to be on for 8 hours. Like, eventually your personality has to just come into play. And so but I think that the biggest thing is, you got to take some risks, and you've got to put yourself out there, and you might fail, but you're not going to die. So,
just keep trying.
And I think that's, when it comes down to it, that's, with the crazy world that we're in, that's the one thing with the kids. I'm like, listen, you just do your best, like, there's nothing more. I used to be like, I don't want to say I was Tiger Mom, Brian, but I was just like, do your work, work hard, outwork everybody. Now I'm like, get up before 1, try to brush your teeth, say hi to your teachers once in a while. Like, the standards are so low. But it'll be nice when we can get back to some. It's weird thinking, I just did some stand-up the other day virtually, and it was weird, and it does make me think about
in
what
person.
It will look like.
You did it in person?
No, virtually.
Oh, virtual. Okay.
But I refused to do stand-up shows. But this was a show for teachers. So, so I was like, I'll come out of retirement for this. And I was like so sick to my stomach. But it was great, People just wanted to laugh. But it does make me think, like, I don't even I just feel like I won't remember my jokes, and
Hmm.
I guess I'll have new ones. I don't know. It'll be an interesting transition back for sure.
Dina, I want to talk to you much longer, but we're out of time. Is there anything you
Right,
want to
this was
promote?
fun.
I want to make sure people find out about you if they're not.
Where am I going, Bri? I'll be playing in front of this fireplace for the next
Well, they can
year,
tune in on
probably.
Facebook and follow
They
you.
can. They can.
One Funny Mother, is that how they find you?
That's it. Anything One Funny Mother, you can find us. And Bri, what else do you want to promote? Because there's a lot of people here, a lot of the ladies.
Well, we have some things for our local folks that's going to be happening at the end of the semester, but I can't announce them yet. So, but tune in. We're going to be talking to
But
different
this-
guests
Every Wednesday, you'll be here at 4
every
o'clock.
Wednesday at 4. And next week we're talking to one of your friends that a lot of your followers probably know already,
Love it.
Clay Johnson from the Fabulous Equinox Orchestra. I think he evokes
So
your name in every interview.
I love it. I love me some Clay Johnson. I love those fellows. Him and
Yeah, me
Jeremy.
too.
They were one of the first people I met when I got involved. And you know, I don't know if many people know this, but you know, when you go to sell your show, you're on your own. You're by yourself. And so, you know, when you meet people like Brian, who is a presenter, who's like, hey, maybe try this, try that. This will help you sell your show. Or you meet people like Clay and Jeremy, and you know they had been doing it a lot longer than us, and they were like, "Hey, listen, this is where you can get a great banner. This is where you can do this." Like there was just no it was very competitive. It was very much a community, and I miss it. So I'm so glad that you're doing this, and I'm so happy to be a part of the inaugural show. And I can't
Definitely,
wait to
thank
see
you
who
so
else we
much.
get on here.
I'm honored that you're our first guest. So they could check out Tipsy Tuesdays too, is another popular program. And with that, we're going to have to let it go. We don't have any ending music this time. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Maybe we'll have one next week. Thanks. We'll talk to you soon, Dina. And we'll have to bring you back when our show is a little bit more off the ground. So
All right, I'm in.
thank
Let
you.
me know.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody, and tune in next week if you can, 4 o'clock. Bye.